Have you thought about the 5 hidden costs of home buying? Well, we've got all 5 today, plus a bonus tip that we'll cover in today's episode. Stay tuned.
Let's talk about it.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm Terry with MVP Realty.
I'm Rich with MVP Realty.
You know, buying a home has some obvious costs associated with it, and there are sometimes things that home buyers are not yet thinking about. So today we're going to cover 5 hidden costs of home buying that you do want to be thinking about and planning for your home purchase. So let's get right into it. These are some costs that were compiled by the National Association of Homebuilders.
Right.
And we'll put our own little spin on it as it relates to Southwest Florida. Number 1, closing costs. That's a big one.
That's a big one, yeah. I mean, a lot of people know that there's going to be some costs involved with the closing, but they also have to think about how much to budget for that.
Absolutely. Now, it's going to depend on whether you're doing a cash sale,
right,
or whether you're financing your home. So I'll talk for a moment about financing your home because that has an impact on your closing costs. What typically will happen is that you would set aside somewhere between 2 to 5% of the loan value of your purchase. So for example, if you were buying a $500,000 property and putting 20% down, that means $400,000 would be the loan value, and that means you're going to plan for something between $8,000 to up to $20,000 of closing costs. And you want to plan for those with your title company and your lender so that you really can get ahead of that. They've got to reveal mandatory costs. They've got to tell you the expectation within a pretty narrow percentage so that you are not given just a really big range, but you're given some really specific numbers based on your home and the value of that loan and the state, in this case Florida, that you're buying in. But that could add up.
It can, and it can also be different whether you're buying a new construction home or if you're going to buy a resale.
Absolutely. And there are things in there that could be allocations of homeowner association costs, as well as what you might be expecting in terms of proration of your tax bill. So when you're buying a home in Florida, you certainly want to talk to us as your real estate partners, but other partners again, like your lender and your title company, to make sure you're planning for the hidden cost number 1, which is all of the closing costs.
Right, right.
So how about the second one? What do you think?
Moving costs. Well, you know, a lot of times we've told people, if you're moving, especially from the north, take very little. Take all of your personal belongings, your clothes and your things like that. But a lot of the furniture you can leave and maybe want to rebuy it here because it may not fit in with the decor that you're going to have in Florida that you had up in Michigan or someplace like that. But you know, if whatever you're going to do, there's going to be some moving costs that are going to be included with your move here.
Well, you make a good point, and it is going to depend on whether someone has a local move or a long distance move.
Right.
If it's a local move, you know, 2 people helping to pack and move your things, you might be paying somewhere between maybe $1,000 or a couple of $1,000s for a less than 100-mile move. If you're looking at long distance, it does depend on how far you're coming, and as you're alluding to, the weight of what you're packing and how much you're bringing, where the cost could be, they say on a national average, up to $5,700. I think that's low.
I think it's low, and you also have to figure if you are going to do all of the packing and they're going to do the moving, or if you're going to have them do white glove service from beginning to end. Now they're going to charge you, like Terry was saying, they're going to charge you per mile and per pound. So it's something to think about when you could be buying new here. It may be a reasonable cost difference rather than bringing what you've had up north.
Yep, or out west or anywhere that you might be moving from.
Right.
So think about moving costs and consider your options for sure. Don't want to overlook that one.
Right.
Now, the hidden cost number 3 is an important one, and I think most of you are thinking about it, but let's talk a little bit about home inspections.
Yes.
Home inspections are a critical part of any home purchase, including here in Southwest Florida, and you should budget somewhere between probably $300 to $600 or maybe a little bit more, maybe $700 or $800, depending on the size and the type of the home that you're buying,
Right.
because that will determine which home inspections you're signing up for. And as you've heard us say many, many times, we encourage you to look into and sign up for all the inspections
All of them.
that your home could benefit from. Now, some of those could be different in a condo versus a single family home for sure.
Right.
And then that home inspection cost will change.
Right, because in a condo, you're responsible for everything inside, not outside. So you're not going to be having an inspector checking the roof, because that's the condo association that is their responsibility to be doing that. So condos are a little bit less expensive. They may or may not have their own pool. Usually they do not. But if you're into a single family, or if you're into a villa that does have a pool, certainly needs to be inspected. Pool equipment is not inexpensive.
Right, and they're checking the heaters and all of the connection points, and the fact that the pool is sealed well and not leaking.
Right, they're
So-
also checking for if is it up to date to code. You know, that
Right.
there could be some safety issues that if the pool was built, 10, 15 years ago, there may be some safety code improvements over those years, that it's not necessarily the owner's responsibility to bring it up to code, but it's something that you should be aware of, and you may want to do it, especially if you're going to have visitors, grandchildren, or somebody coming to visit.
Absolutely, and you certainly want to know about that before you ever think later about reselling that home.
That's
So
right.
you really want to be as up to date as you can be for your own use and safety, and for the future value of that property. Another one that comes up from time to time is that if folks are not buying a home in a planned community that's on the city sewer and water systems, there could also be well and septic.
Right.
And there are some areas here in Southwest Florida, and we've certainly had customers who purchase property, sometimes a little bit more property,
Right.
and their home is on either or both well and septic.
Usually both.
And you want that inspection done as well.
That's right.
So all of those things, and think about whether you want radon and or toxic mold to be included in your inspections. All of those will have some impact on the price, and yet when you think about it, if you're paying even $600 or $700 or $800 at the high end for an inspection, isn't that a great value?
It's inexpensive compared to what hidden costs may be down the road for repairs. Also, even if you're buying a brand new construction home, you really should still consider getting that inspected, especially usually builders have a 1-year warranty period that they'll come out and they'll
That's
fix
right.
anything. So usually just before that year ends, especially then, go and get your home completely inspected, and anything that the inspector is going to find, you can hand that over to the builder and he'll take care of it.
That's very helpful, and that can save you an awful lot in repair costs later.
That's
by
right.
catching things in that first year cycle in a new construction home.
Sure does.
Very important consideration. So all the reasons that home inspections are great value and important, and yet you want to plan for them from a financial perspective, and
Right.
the out-of-pocket nature of that. You're not paying for that at closing. You're
Right.
paying for that when you order it.
That's
so
right.
that's important. Now after that, there are a couple of others that we should get to. What's the next one on your thought?
Well, we have title insurance.
That's critical.
That's something that you are definitely going to be needing. So that's something that you're going to have to talk to the title company, see what the costs are going to be on that. I mean, the national average is about $1,000, but it varies all over the place, especially if you're in a planned community or not.
Right, and it will vary based on state by state. So
State by
Florida
state.
may be different than you experienced when you had your purchase out west, up north, wherever it might be in the Midwest. And of course on the value of the home and
Right.
the features of the home. So, and how long ago they have to kind of research
That they
to
have
bring
to
that
go back.
title back up to date.
Exactly.
So-
If it was sold last year, he only has to search it for the past year. But if it hadn't been sold in 20 years, now he's got to search for 20 years.
Absolutely. And in Florida contracts, there's some interesting considerations depending on whether you're buying right in the Naples area or whether you're buying even in the adjacent county, Lee County, and in other parts of Florida, about where the demarcation is typically between what the seller pays for and what the buyer pays for on the title insurance policy. And that can have a bit of an impact then in the cost that the buyer may be assuming, depending on which contract they're using in Florida and which precedent that contract really brings up with regard to allocation of those title insurance costs.
Absolutely.
So we can talk to you about that based on where the town is that you're actually planning to buy your home.
That's right. Not only state to state, but it also varies from county to county. So.
Absolutely. Now there's another one that is a little bit more, I'll say, in the home buyer's control, but still is a good one to think about because the costs can really add up. And that fourth tip is the potential for updates or renovations that you're going to need even in the first year of living in your new home.
Right.
And people don't always think and budget for the appliances that they may want to swap out and update,
Right.
or the furniture they need to buy because the stuff that they had in another state is too heavy, doesn't fit in the room sizes of the home that they're buying, or they're just ready for something that feels
something
like
new.
Florida.
Right.
That's important, or they are doing home repairs, things that were not necessary to have been repaired by the seller. They were not maybe major defects,
Right.
but they were things that they could have been cosmetic, they could be signs of things to come, and the home buyer knows it's really a good idea to get on them in year one. Well, you may want to budget. And in the national average back in 2017 was the last time that the Home Builders Association issued the data. It was over $10,000 that typically new home buyers were investing in that home in the first year on things that you could kind of globally call home renovation or home improvement.
Right.
And so that's important. But then
It is.
how you do it is another big consideration. What do you think about that?
It is, and we know that you're excited about moving into a new home. Stay away from the furniture stores as far as taking out any credit. If you're going to be financing, don't change any of your credit. Don't go in there and even take out the furniture store credit card or anything like that, because that's going to make a difference. It could make a difference when you're talking to your loan officer. Some of the things, like when you were talking about that it may not be a major defect, one of the things that I thought of when you said that was the air conditioning unit. Now, all it has to be is working. If it's old, that's not a defect. So you may be looking at a home that you just love, but maybe the air conditioning system is on the older side. Well, you don't have to replace that as soon as you get in there, but it's something that you are probably going to need to address in a year or two down the road.
Good point. That or an old water heater. Those are typically the mechanical systems that people ask about,
Right.
and they wonder if it's getting even close to the end of useful life, whether they can ask the seller to change it out. And the seller does not have a contractual obligation to do it
has to
because
work.
that's not a major defect if
Right.
it's in functioning order.
That's right.
But you may want to change it out. So
right.
these are things we can talk about and you can budget for so you don't have those hidden surprises later. So those are really all of the things that we have for the 5 big tips, right?
Right.
The first one was the closing costs. The second one was the moving costs.
Moving costs.
Home inspections being tip number 3.
Right.
Title insurance, and then this potential for renovations or updates.
Right.
Now, I think we in Southwest Florida often bring up another one, our bonus tip. And if you stayed with us this long, you deserve to hear what that bonus tip is as well.
Sure.
And that's to plan for.
Homeowners insurance.
That's an important consideration in Florida, and maybe one of those things that's different from anybody's experience back home if
That's
they're
right.
coming from out of state.
That's right. We always tell people that you may expect to see homeowners insurance down here, depending upon where you are in Florida, that is going to be higher than what you're typically used to in other states. So
That's right.
It's a good idea to talk to one or two insurance companies here and find out what would my insurance be for this house on 123 Main Street.
Even before we put in the offer,
Right.
they will give you a good estimate right off the bat.
Right.
They'll tell you about where you are relative to any flood zones in Southwest Florida. And even if you're not in or near a flood zone, they'll also tell you the cost of you buying optional flood insurance, which
Right.
can be a really good value, especially when you don't need it, but
That's
you may
right.
want it. And so
Absolutely.
it's almost like inspections. Ask for all the components of insurance that you
Right.
could be getting and understand the value proposition of what that could do for you, why you might want to have it, and then budget appropriately. But I really like when people call even before they put in the offer. so it's not a hidden cost that they're now stuck with.
Right.
If they, say you're right on the Gulf, right near the water, or some of these things where insurance costs are truly a factor.
They can really make a big difference on what you want to buy and where you want to buy it.
Absolutely. And if you found something that was helpful to you in this episode, I hope you will like it, give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment about what was helpful to you. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Turn on notifications. You'll be apprised every time we post a new episode, and we want you to know about the ever-changing world of homeownership here in Southwest Florida. The other thing that is really important, the last thought I'll leave with you today, is that if you are going to think about doing some potential renovations and updates, don't miss our video on the top 5 home remodel opportunities that can add value to your home. We're going to post that right up above here in the upper corner. And besides that, we also talked about financing a home. In the lower corner, you're going to see our video on the 10 commandments of getting a mortgage and some of the things you should and shouldn't do before that mortgage is approved and you've closed on your new home. Check them out.
Bye now.
Bye now.